Welcome back to my channel, Star Booze.
At last, Kathryn Grayson speaks up. On her infamous extramarital escapades. Kathryn Zelma Kathryn was Grayson's birth mother, Hedrick Elizabeth, February 9, 1922 in North Carolina's Winston-Salem into a humble but loving family setting for children, including her, were born to Charles Hedrick, a diligent structure realtor and contractor whose occupation rooted the household in a secure middle-class way of life, along with Lillian Hedrick, whose given name is née Grayson, later on Kathryn, adopted as her stage name. Last name. The Hedrick family stressed family values in talent acquisition and instruction, offering a strong basis for Kathryn and her siblings to investigate their passions and dreams during Kathryn's childhood. The Hedricks moved to Kirkwood, a suburban town in Missouri just outside of St. Louis, a busy metropolis. This action was important for young Kathryn, as it brought her closeness to cultural establishments and chances for the arts that might influence her prospects. At the tender age of 12, the innate ability to sing that Kathryn possessed was found in very fortunate circumstances. Conditions. Singing by herself on the vacant stage of the Municipal Opera House in St. Louis. She was accidentally overheard by a janitor. Amazing voice. Identifying her remarkable ability, he presented her to a vocal coach, Francis Marshall, connected to the Civic Opera of Chicago. This relationship turned out to be pivotal, as Francis turned into Kathryn's first official voice instructor, offering little girl with knowledgeable direction and motivating her to seek employment in a It wasn't just Kathryn. The Hedrick family's performer, her Frances Rabin, Mildred's sister Hedrick too, took a route into putting herself in the performing arts. A singer and an actor. The intimate bond between sisters lasted over their careers. Interestingly, together they made an appearance in the 1947 Sweethearts, a musicale demonstrating their complementary skills. Besides the sisters, Katharina has two brothers, Hedrick, Clarence Bud E. and Harold Hedrick, who is not in the public eye but figures, helped to create the powerful family support network that encircled Kathryn over the course of her work. The dynamic and close-knit nature of families played a crucial role in cultivating Kathryn's first goals and resilience. About 15 years old, the Hedrick family decided to relocate to California, a state full of opportunities, particularly in the growing entertainment sector based in Hollywood. This was an important step for Kathryn, giving her access to an extensive variety of instructors, auditions, and eventually deals with studios. From when Kathryn was 12 years old, she had been undergoing intense training to become an opera singer, a discipline requiring not just voice skill as well as technical accuracy and manifestation of emotion. Her commitment to gaining proficiency in the operatic art style equipped her for a flexible profession that would connect the classical and popular musical performance. By the early 1940s, Kathryn's rigorous instruction and natural charm attracted the interest of Mayor of Metro-Goldwyn, MGM, one of the most prominent studios in Hollywood at the moment. She was able to get a deal with MGM, was renowned for creating musicals and star building with exceptional voice skills. At first, Kathryn assumed a number of backing parts in a range of musical movies, enabling her to improve her screen presence as well as acting abilities. When she advanced to main roles, she got a break in well-known shows. Among these were Cheered by Thousands in 1943, a musical during the conflict that Ames to Morale, the location of Kathryn's vocals displayed with flair. Then she became a star. In 1945's Anchors Away, a timeless musical comedy in which she was teamed by Frank Sinatra and John Kelly, solidifying her position as a prominent lead of the genre of MGM music. Kathryn kept constructing her renowned movie career that included memorable parts in Showboat, Kiss Me Kate, 1953 and 1951. Two productions that featured more than just her lovely soprano voice, but in addition to her dramatic acting skills, she played Howard in both movies. Keel, making an unforgettable on-screen impression Clabona that viewers adore. These movies continue to be among the most acclaimed. Their Times musicals as well as Kathryn's performance made a substantial contribution to their enduring appeal. Beyond movie, Kathryn Grayson showed off her adaptability as a musician by moving to the stage. Between 1962 and she had an appearance in the Broadway Camelot's production, a Renanad musical that gave her the chance to showcase her operational training in a theater. The combination of her stage presence and her ability to speak clearly won her praise from viewers and reviewers similarly enhancing her standing as a consummate musician. Later on in the 60s, Kathryn went back to her classical origins by taking part in a number of big operas, expanding her repertory portfolio of artistic work. Her skill set including well-loved classics like Madame Butterfly, La Boheme and Orpheus in Thalatravia and Underworld. These projects needed not just outstanding singing ability, but also deep emotional resonance. Attributes Kathryn made a distinguished delivery. Her aptitude at navigating both worlds of Hollywood musicals and conventional it became a distinctive presence in opera and entertainment in America. Respected for her skill, elegance, and commitment to thirds, during her lengthy and successful professions, Grayson, Kathryn, their renowned cinema and operatic soprano celebrity in the heyday of Hollywood, had two marriages throughout her life. which both drew in significant public interest as a result of their spouses' prominent status and the intricate emotional dynamics at play. Her actor John was the subject of the first marriage. Shelton is a tall, attractive and influential man who had contracts with a few significant studios in the 1940s. Shelton and Grayson had first connected under romantic situations while taking part in screen tests, an environment that wasn't out of the ordinary for budding entertainment industry romances of the time period. The chemistry between them was instant, and the two set out on errands that lasted for about 18 months, a rather extended involvement by Hollywood norms, suggesting a degree of sentimental commitment, and maybe they were both idealistic. The pair decided to get married in a hasty and in a rather covert manner, escaping to Nevada's Las Vegas, where they worried that not on July 11, 1941 elopements weren't unusual for celebrities that wished to stay out of the spotlight or who felt compelled to flee the demands of studio standards and morality provisions in contracts. When they got married, Grayson was moving quickly up the MGM ranks, and Shelton was becoming more well-known but the marriage would turn out to be turbulent. Even if they were fond of each other initially, their partnership was distinguished by substantial difficulties, emotional tension, and finally alienation. By July 1942, only a year following their Shelton had left the marriage and the Brentwood residence of the couple and into his own apartment, indicating the start of their relationship's demise. They separated after a brief period of reconciliation in which they had attempted to solve their disagreements. But that endeavor was brief. A lawsuit for divorce had been filed but was first rejected by a judge, signifying a phase of the potential for a solution. However, Grayson subsequently charged Shelton's mental cruelty, a prevalent phrase used in divorce proceedings at the time. This usually indicates of a conduct, emotional neglect, or psychological incompatibility. On June 17, the divorce was formalized. 1946, terminating their nearly 5-year lengthy union. Shortly after her initial divorce, Grayson started a second relationship. Prominent union, this time to the well-known vocalist Johnny Johnston and performer who had established himself on film and on radio. The two were married on August 22, 1947, in the lovely California's Carmel town. The place itself, renowned for its creative scenery and picturesque shoreline, might have mirrored a longing for a more tranquil and beautiful starting her second marriage. Similar to Grayson, Johnston had musical ability, and their marriage was many admirers as a love union created in Hollywood paradise. Two singers with similar aesthetic sensibilities and prosperous professions, but this marriage was also doomed to fail. Over the ensuing years, the pair's connection soured. On the 15th of November 1950, Grayson and Johnston split up, signaling the official dissolution of their partnership. Less than the following year, on October 3, 1951, Grayson received a divorce decree from Johnston once more due to mental brutality. Reiterating this assertion indicates a recurrent trend in Grayson's connections, perhaps demonstrating her emotional sensitivity or trouble navigating the stresses brought on by her demanding work life and the demanding demands of the entertainment industry. For many years, the soprano with the golden voice Kathryn Grayson kept herself immaculate. Perception as the morally upright operaster of the heyday of MGM, a lady after taciturnity and however, behind the brilliant smiling in technicolor and traditional clum manner, was a private life far more intricate than the studios have ever been made visible to the general population. Now, following years of quiet murmurs and shocking disclosures have surfaced regarding Grayson's off-screen disclosures that contest the established perception of appropriateness and innocence. In an uncommon and truthful statement, Grayson's personalities, in addition to long-buried studio memos and interviews, have a repeat suggesting a string of relationships with her most famous co-stars, relationships she had intensely avoided or rejected while her among the most alluring this hidden histories chapter Sharen's, the 1945 musical set, where Grayson starred, anchors away next to two of MGM's most captivating, Frank Sinatra and Gene, the male leads Kelly. The trio's chemistry felt on the screen, but it was the screen interactions that captured the attention of backlit gossip back then. Grayson was praised at the height of her career, due to her high voice and frequently portrayed as the elegant leading lady. Sinatra in tuning to move away from Bobby's soccer heartthrob to a well-known actor, it was staccato full head over heels for Grayson's grace and charm, as said by one Frank, an insider. Sent her flowers. Day, the type that fueled her dressing room, that smells good and conjecture. He wasn't nuanced. However, there were others competing with Sinatra for Grayson's focus. John Kelly, well known for The Boy Next Door and his athletic grace charm, Allegedly, started a romantic relationship with Grayson that swiftly got out of hand above and beyond the casual. However, Kelly was actress Betsy Blair's spouse at that period, and nearby sources of the output stated that he and Grayson had a close late-night discussions, covert rehearsals, as well as some pilfered intervals between takes that left many about their attraction to one another. The stress could be reduced with ACNIF, recalled a former crew member. Kathryn and Gene would vanish in between scenes, and nobody inquired lots of inquiries. What makes this triangle so special? The tension that arose is disgusting between Kelly and Sinatra, already renowned for being competitive with Grayson's love. Even yet, they kept their demeanor behind the camera scenes. Their competition grew more fierce, with Sinatra allegedly turning into growingly envious of Kelly's relationship with the glitzy soprano. Grayson kept a neutral stance toward Coy in public, but correspondence sent to a confidant implies that she was real imbivalent. "I feel like a boss because of Frank." In one letter she wrote, "Schoolgirl, however, Jean speaks to a fire within of me. Didn single quotes to recognize it." Despite the entanglements of emotions, Grayson kept her attention on her performance, never allowing her private matters to disrupt her ability to be professional. However, the psychological cost of juggling two strong and fervent suitors while defending her private life against their must have been a lot of studio scrutiny. MGM at the time imposed stringent morale provisions in their star contracts, as well as A careers could have been ended by a public scandal. All night, Grayson was aware of the risks. Her silence was more than simply tact, it was survival. Later on in life, Grayson wouldn't obliquely reflect on the experience, expressing gratitude but warily of both men. Not till years following her retirement, that close friends disclosed that she had talked about time frame as among the most exciting and the most terrifying thing in my life. If she selected one man above the other in the end is still unknown. She brought it with her to the hereafter. However, in shattering her quiet, even if it's subtle, through her confidentiality in writings, Kathryn she now has a new dimension thanks to Grayson. Heritage, a woman's perspective that, even in the heyday of Hollywood illusion, brave enough to live and love as she saw fit, even if it's in the dark. As per her Kathryn, a long-standing personal secretary, Grayson died quietly within her sleep at her Los Angeles home, February 17, 2010, California. She was 88 when she was dead, signaling the conclusion of an incredible life that was almost 9 decades long. Her death was calm and devoid of pain, bringing a tender end to the life of a once dazzling woman with her angelic soprano voice and on-screen persona. Grayson had been peacefully residing in her following decades, mostly isolated from the she used to have the spotlight so elegantly instructed during MGM's heyday. Musicals, despite the fact that she had moved away despite the spotlight, her legacy endured, securely preserved, treasured by admirers of vintage Hollywood films and fans of similar to operatic music. Her secretary, who having collaborated closely with her for a number of years and had established themselves as a reliable friend and helper, saw that Grayson had stayed shrewd, polite, and respectful all the way through. In her last days, she supposedly thought back on her profession, her time spent working with legends like Frank Lanza and Mario Lanza, Jean Kelly, Sinatra, and her persistent passion for the music that had given her a reason to live. With Grayson's passing, the passage ophone of the final symbols of a past time, a period in which Hollywood musicals were the most popular, with celebrities like she was the epitome of elegance. And flawless vocals. Her Los Angeles residence, Angeles, full of her mementasmo v career, framed images with her their famous people and loved Ani souvenirs of her operatic performance, provided a peaceful refuge where she had delighted in their life's last chapter with honor and elegance. Even if the globe hadn't witnessed decades of her on screen, her recollections survived because to the classic movies she abandoned, like Showboat and Kiss Me Anchors Away, Kate, each one is enduring evidence of her exceptional abilities. The announcement of her death was greeted with tributes from nearby historians and admirers world, all acknowledging her distinct contribution to the entertainment industry in America. Despite being peaceful, her death was profoundly felt by people who had previously appreciated her since the 1940s and 1950s, when she was at her best, and particularly by those who were lucky enough to get to know her personally. A female, for more than just her voice, a genius, but also for her kindness, wit, and modesty.